He doesn't have good cognitive flexibility.
And how about dealing with complex situations?
He will struggle with complex verbal situations. He will struggle even more with complex visual situations.
And can his perseveration come into play in those instances as well?
I believe they could play a part.
I'd like to direct you to your report and the very conclusion of your summary findings. The very last paragraph, you address Mr. Christian's slower processing speed. Can you tell us what that ultimate conclusion was?
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Mr. Christian's slower processing speed, cognitive rigidity, difficulty with recalling conversations, difficulty with visual organization, tendency to perseverate with response styles, and difficulty seeing another person's perspective will cause him to have challenges interacting in the world. He will tend to select a response and stick with it regardless of feedback. He will not see the full picture. This is a challenge even with his average intellectual functioning and basically intact memory. This type of thinking does not meet criteria for a diagnosis completely.
And you followed up by saying it's not due to head injuries.
I do not believe it's due to his head injuries.
And do you think this type of reasoning is something that has existed from birth, or do you know?
I believe in the pattern of scores that I saw and with the history that I learned that he was born with this.
Do you think that 10 or 11 seconds is enough time for him to make important decisions?
No.
Why?
That's a fast time period. It would depend on if it was a singular situation or a complex situation. It would depend on what might be happening in the moment, but it would be a very fast time for his brain to make a decision.
And is he a good multitasker?
No.
Is he able to switch well from one thing to the next?
No.
Can he think of two things at the same time?
No.
Can he do two things at the same time?
Not well.
Can his abilities be impacted by environmental changes?
Yes.
How about his ability for abstract thought? Is that low or high?
It's low.
Is he very good at assessing gray areas?
No.
I'm not talking about a person who becomes a victim, but do these deficits lead to a certain kind of vulnerability?
Yes.
And can you describe that for us, please?
These deficits can come from a variety of brain organizations and brain situations. Any person with these deficits will have a difficult time knowing how to interact with the world, will have a difficult time creating and maintaining friendships, will have a difficult time making decisions in new places or with new information.
We know from the evidence that the state has presented that Mr. Christian caused more than one injury to more than one person. In fact, he kept going in a way. How does that relate to your findings?
Do you need me to speak in hypotheticals?
No, I think you can address his conduct.
Okay. So there was a lot of commotion just in a normal train. There are a lot of people. They're doing a lot of different things. There were a lot of people talking. There were a lot of people eventually moving. When Mr. Christian was pushed down, at that point, the sympathetic nervous system of any person would be activated. With a brain that is not fully comprehending, not fully seeing what is in the environment, and being activated, at this point, his vision will be very singular. And my assumption would be that a person would try to protect themselves.
And what you're describing, could that be a reason for the gravity of the injuries that were inflicted on that day?
I believe so.
And along with that, is there an element of separation to that in terms of the number of blows?
It probably is more due to the singular focus, the inability to multitask, the inability to have cognitive flexibility. He couldn't get out of where his brain was.
And then you are aware that after the incident on the MAX train, Mr. Christian made statements to various police officers. Why are those significant, or how do those fit in with your findings in this case?
My understanding is the statements were in the same tone of provocative statements he had made at other times. Those kinds of statements were ones that would most readily come to his thought process or come just to his verbal process.
And at that point, would it be fair to say that he was still in a state of dysregulation?
Yes.